everyone, and welcome to an ambush stream, a Tuesday afternoon, unexpected, unplanned stream because I've had a day. I needed something to sort of take my mind off of all that's happened today. So how did my day start? My day started with my office network being down for 3 hours on billing day for the month of October. And so I was 3 hours behind on everything. I did eventually get it all done. Got myself back to square, as it were. And after all that rush and all that stress and all that buildup and all that deadline, I need a moment. I need a moment of reflection, a moment of release, a moment to vent. And what better direction to vent my daily frustrations than on, hey, how about the media and the legal system? Sure, why not? Hey, it's a Tuesday. But all of that being said, who's joining me on the surprise ambush stream of streams? Tyrannus, Alexandrius, Tremere, Lich, hello. Tall Person, hello. Jaeger Pony, hello. Who else is here? Absolutely Degenerate, hello. Shield Gorath, hello. One Ton Hammer, hello. Mike Savage, Blarg. Spittlebuggies, hello. K-Shull, hello. Tack Alpaca, hello. Robert Pincus, hello. Resolute Germ, hello. Tyler F, hello. St. Michael, hello. I might also, in my efforts to decompress, be slightly pepperjacked. So if I slur my words or seem a little stumbly, that's probably why. Spudgun, hello. Red Chaos Tree, hello. And anybody in the chat who is either lurking or those of you who might be in the future, hello. Hope you're having a good Tuesday. So I have two subjects to discuss. The first one is an article that was posted by the Washington Post just a couple hours ago, and it caught my attention. You might be able to guess from the headline why it caught my attention. We'll get to that in a moment. Thank you, Attack Alpaca, for the how's it going, Dogcat Fox? Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wowie, wow, wow.
Oh, Dogcat Fox. That comes to us from a Keeverdam Dogcat Fox. So, in absentia, thank you, Keeverdam. Simon Willikins, hello. Yeah, so, Sasheen Littlefeather may have lied about her identity. Does that matter? I don't know, Washington Post. Does honesty matter? Does cultural appropriation matter? Does effectively stolen valor matter? Does creating a false shield by which to deflect any criticism of oneself over the course of their entire adult life based on an untruth matter? I don't know. I need you to tell me, Washington Post, what is the value of honesty? And not only that, what is the value of journalism? I guess we'll find out together. Shady Grin, hello. Sir Adamantine, hello. What? Is it Sir Adamantine's House of Celestial Sins in the house? Sir Adamantine, long time no see. You know, Sir Adamantine's House of Celestial Sins is part of the Moonbase deep lore on Moonbase. If you guys don't know, that's old school. Cannibalistic Wizard, hello. All right, so what does Washington Post have to say about does it matter? After a startling op-ed alleges the recently deceased activist was a fraud, heated discussions emerge about policing Native American heritage. Well, if she wasn't a Native American, it's not policing. It's actually uncovering a lie, isn't it? Or more accurately, a truth. It reminds me of that TEDx talk we looked at several months ago, where you had that lady who based her entire career about being Native American, or I should say indigenous in Canada, but it was all made up. Remember her? I don't remember her name all of a sudden. She's forgettable. Sasheen Littlefeather left an indelible impression at the 1973 Academy Award ceremony when Marlon Brando chose her to publicly decline on his behalf. the Best Actor Oscar he received for The Godfather and instead take the opportunity to call out Hollywood's mistreatment of the United States' indigenous people. Littlefeather, who was 26 at the time, cut a regal figure, wearing moccasins and a tasseled dress, her long dark hair parted and clipped with intricate beadwork. Introducing herself as an Apache and the president of the National Native American Affirmative Image Committee, Littlefeather looked out at the audience, which she later said was as white as a sea of Clorox, and delivered a short speech that was interrupted by scattered applause and boos. Some speculated that it was a kind of surrealist performance, pardon me. Members of the media and Hollywood's elite at the time derided Brando for the gesture. Others looked into Littlefeather's background. She was born Marie Louise Cruz in Salinas, California, questioning her motives and accusing her of faking her identity. Well, if her name wasn't actually Sacheen Littlefeather, why wouldn't you question her identity? She died October 2nd at the age of 75, not long after the Academy formally apologized for how she was treated and threw an event in her honor. Oh, okay. 20 days after Littlefeather's death, however, you mean Cruz's death, Native American writer and activist Jacqueline Keeler, an opinion column published by the San Francisco Chronicle, alleging Littlefeather committed ethnic fraud by pretending to be Native American for more than 50 years. Or, as I said, cultural appropriation, or, perhaps after a fashion, a kind of stolen valor. Let's see, Dom O'Leary, hello. A2P, hello. Hello. Throughout her life, Littlefeather, you mean Cruz, said she was White Mountain Apache and Yaqui, I might be mispronouncing that, through her father's side of the family. But Keeler's article includes interviews with Littlefeather's sisters, Rosalind Cruz and Trudy Orlandi, who dispute their late sister's claims. Quote, "It is fraud," Cruz told Keeler. Quote, "It's disgusting to the heritage of tribal people, and it's just insulting to my parents," unquote. The sisters also challenged several aspects of Littlefeather's life story, including that she grew up in abject poverty and was abused. The article has since unleashed a bigger discussion online and among Native American activists and scholars, one that goes much deeper than most people's understanding of Native cultures and tribal identity. Why? She wasn't Native American. She was part of no tribe. She had no heritage involved in Native American culture. She was a fraud. She lied. The article should end there. Oh, but it keeps going, I guess. And just as a note, I haven't read this yet, so this is all new to me. Some took Keeler to task for policing indigenous identity, arguing that such efforts have isolated and hurt those earnestly trying to reconnect with their native tribes. Keeler publicly tracks pretendians, people who appear to be falsely claiming and profiting off of Native American heritage. Policing indigenous, you mean seeking the truth? Uncovering someone's fraud? Is that what policing means? Is that means like uncovering a crime? Oh, well, obviously that's a bad thing. Someone trying to take credit or score victim points over something they have nothing to do with. Oh, that's bad, guys. Don't do that. Don't question, don't ask. If someone says they are a victim, just believe it out of hand, I guess. A Texas Attorney General, secret agent, hello. Brittany Holland, hello. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat these days better. I have a bad habit of just focusing with horse blinders on what I'm looking at. I'm trying to be a better host. I'm doing my best. But others have defended Keeler's work. But why would they? She's obviously hurting people, saying that Littlefeather's alleged fraud was an open secret among Native scholars and activists for many years. Falsely appropriating Native identity can cause real harm, they argue, entrenching harmful stereotypes and undermining the communal and legal bonds that have defined Native tribes for centuries. Yeah, if you lie about it, you take credit for things you have not done or did not have done unto you. Yeah. you're causing people to have to, well, be more skeptical, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe this will teach somebody a lesson like, I don't know, the Academy. Quote, it's not just about your right to claim or to connect to that tribal identity. It's about what your responsibilities are to it, unquote, said Dina Gilio Whitaker, a writer and lecturer of American Indian Studies at California State University at San Marcos, She wasn't connecting to a tribal. She had no tribal identity. She was a liar. Which side of this are you coming down on? Quote, the controversy about Shasheen Littlefeather is not that she's not indigenous. Oh, it's not? Okay. It's that she is not who she claimed to be, as an Apache or a Yaqui, she said. That kind of identity implies a relationship, a legal relationship to a tribe, or in this case, two tribes. That is what she did not have, unquote. Okay, so it's not that she claimed to be of indigenous heritage, it's that she named specific tribes. Oh, I see. Okay, so that's how that works? Okay, so if I say that I'm African American, but I don't name the tribes that I descend from, well, then that's okay. That's not the controversy. That's not a problem. Oh, okay. I'll have to remember that one. Maybe Rachel Dolezal has an exit strategy now. After all, being a member of a native tribe is not just an ethnic identity, but a political one. A long history of genocide, forced migration, assimilation, and erasure has magnified these tensions, Gilio Whitaker added. Quote, there's no identity more fraught than American Indian identity in the U.S. None, unquote. Right, so regardless of what tribe she said she was a part of, she's wrong for saying that she was Native American, right? Am I missing something here? Gilio Whitaker, a certified descendant, of the Colville Confederated Tribes in Washington, was aware of the rumors surrounding Littlefeather's heritage for decades, but considered it, quote, unthinkable to question it. Why? Why is it unthinkable to question someone's claim of heritage on something and then set themselves up for victim points? The abandonment of skepticism, the abandonment of critical thinking. Okay, quote, in Indian country, we don't have a lot of heroes. And so when we do have them, we tend to hold on to them and take for granted what they are. Take for granted that they are who they say they are, she said. No skeptical inquiry. Anybody can walk off the street and claim victimhood points in your culture, in your ethnicity, and you're just going to not ask too many questions. It's good PR, guys. It's good PR. We don't have enough role models. Let's just latch on to anybody who comes in out of left field and says so. Wow, that's okay. If you say so, certified descendant, why are you certified? Why did you bother getting yourself certified? If really all you have to do is say that you belong to this tradition, that you say you belong to this ethnicity, well, why did you bother going and getting certified? Why not just stand on those same principles? Okay. After meeting with Littlefeather in 2016 to work on a book proposal about the actor's life, she has a vested interest in apologizing for this nonsense. A vested interest in making excuses. Oh, it makes so much more sense now. See, guys, I'm not an idiot for asking questions. It's just not our custom to ask questions. So I'm innocent, guys. I'm innocent for propping up this fraud all this time. Gilio Whitaker's doubts bubbled up. But, Gilio Whitaker still couldn't bring herself to question Littlefeather explicitly even when she wrote in a 2018 letter to filmmakers at One Bull Productions, who are producing a 26-minute documentary on Littlefeather. In that letter, shared with the Washington Post, only now, by the way, Gillia Whitaker cited, quote, colossal misunderstandings about Native identity, unquote, at a time when, quote, tribal sovereignty and nationhood are under attack, unquote. Right. Even if she's a fraud, she's more valuable as PR right now. Even the whole underpinning of this effort is built on a lie, it's best not to ask too many questions or expose it now. We're too invested. You listen to this. Quote, these are controversial aspects of Shasheen's background. Don't you mean like, what was her name? Louise or something? What was her real name? Marie. It's not Shasheen, it's Marie. There are controversial aspects of Shasheen's background and history that will inevitably bring some of these issues to light with the releasing of a documentary film about her, Gillia Whitaker wrote. The film was released anyway in April 2019. Yeah, and so the production company didn't care. And Gillia Whitaker, even after finding out about this, apparently didn't decry the film after the fact. Okay. Gail Ann Kelly, founder and CEO of One Bull Productions, said in a statement that the company, quote, stands by, unquote, its documentary. Really? Okay, well, One Bull Productions doesn't care about accuracy, doesn't do its research, doesn't vet its subjects. Okay, One Bull. One Bull might be a one-hit wonder. Gillia Whitaker, who wrote about the controversy last week, which Gillia Whitaker is now decidedly a part of for having perpetuated, said she wishes she had been, quote, more upfront about her concerns. Quote, I feel like I, on some level, have been complicit in that fraud. On some level? You mean intimately complicit on some level. You were part of the cover-up. You were part of the PR scheme. You knew there was a problem, but you didn't do anything about it. And you put your name to that person's reputation. And only after her death, only after her family members come forward and make it more plain to the world, this doesn't make any sense. Only now do you feel some kind of regret, some kind of hesitation over propping up a false idol. Now, thank you, Okie Native. I preferred Iron Eyes Cody. He wasn't lying to people about being Native. He enjoyed the character he played and would tell people he wasn't if asked. Yes, Iron Eyes Cody of the... what was it? It was an ad campaign for like the conservation, pollution, that kind of thing. And wasn't Iron Eyes Cody Italian? I think I learned that in the Sopranos TV show, didn't I? Or something. Was it that? Or was it? No, maybe it was it Longmire? I think it was Longmire. Was it either Longmire or Sopranos? I forget. Anyway, one of those shows. But yeah, Shasheen Littlefeather. Yeah, she never apparently told the truth. But critiquing Littlefeather publicly also seemed unseemly, she said. No, it wasn't unseemly. You gave her cover. The usefulness of her as a role model / lightning rod for your agenda overrode truth. Littlefeather was diagnosed with breast cancer at that time. Doesn't mean anything. That doesn't forgive someone of their lies, and had been public about her mental health issues. Okay, let's say her entire sense of self was based on a delusion. That doesn't justify perpetuating or feeding it. It doesn't make you look better, which include a schizoaffective bipolar diagnosis. Yeah, which is why come on, guys. Cruz, Littlefeather's estranged sister, said she too had felt inclined to believe Littlefeather. When reached by the post on the day Keeler's article lit up the internet, Cruz said she had assumed that the story Littlefeather told the world had some accuracy to it. Quote, "We were confused and didn't know. Sasheen went off and cultivated American Indian. So we just assume, okay, we're probably American Indian. We never pursued it," she said, adding that she thought maybe Littlefeather was exaggerating a small amount of native heritage. Quote, "We know that my father is Spanish and Mexican, and we always knew that she lived by playing it up like, he's Yaqui and he's Apache. Listening to Sasheen tell us the same thing over 1,000 times, we thought, maybe we might have some indigenous ancestry," unquote. So you bought into a lie, a convenient fantasy. Okay. Cruz said the person she spoke to at the White Mountain Apache tribe could not find any record of her family, and she was denied membership. The Post contacted the tribe to confirm Keeler and Cruz's accounts, but received no response. The Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, meanwhile, issued a statement in the aftermath of Keeler's article. Quote, "The Academy Museum is aware of claims that have been made over several decades, regarding the background of Sasheen Littlefeather. This is something both Littlefeather and the Native American community have addressed continuously since the 1970s. Native American and indigenous identity is deeply complex and layered, especially in the United States, and these communities have long battled erasure and misrepresentation. With the support of its Indigenous Alliance, an Academy member affinity group, the Academy recognizes self-identification," unquote. Oh! So the Academy will just take anybody at their word if they say they are a thing and associate themselves with a history or an ethnicity, whether it's true or not. Oh, okay. I mean, even though these communities have battled misrepresentation, the Academy will take self-representation at face value. The tap dancing on this. After her sister died, Cruz said she came across Keeler's work, which confirmed her suspicions that Littlefeather was a fraud. Quote, "I started reading on Jacqueline's tweets and the research she did. I went, yes, she's right," unquote. It's amazing you needed an outside party to tell you about your own personal history, but hey, whatever works, I guess. Still, many of those debating the new revelations online, which have apparently been around for decades, looked beyond Littlefeather's personal history, drawing their attention to what they regarded as cultural gatekeeping. Okay. Keeler is herself controversial amongst Native writers and activists for her ongoing investigations of pretendians. Her list of alleged imposters has included actor Johnny Depp, Senator Elizabeth Warren. Why would anybody suspect her of having lied? I don't know. And former Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell, an enrolled member of the Northern Cheyenne Nation. Okay, so Littlefeather, more likely than not, is a fraud. But Keeler's investigations of other people to verify their claims of ethnic connection, let's say, is controversial? Maybe it'll be less controversial after this. Until recently, Keeler's project was a show your work kind of endeavor, with dozens of pages of research compiled into a single Google Doc, vetting people's various claims to Native identity. In an interview with The Post, Keeler said that 5 people on her list ended up having valid claims. Oh, okay. So she didn't go into it assuming everybody was lying. She went into it trying to verify someone's claims. Oh, kind of like, what do you call it? What do you call it when someone makes a claim and then you want to verify that claim for the public good or the public information? Oh, yeah, journalism. Right. Trust but verify, that kind of thing? Okay. The most straightforward way of belonging to a tribe or nation is to be enrolled in it. Some tribes ask potential members to show lineal descent, meaning an ancestor who is a registered member. but many require a blood quantum, that is, a minimum amount of Indian blood. Now, that was also a plot line in the TV show Longmire at one point. If you guys haven't watched Longmire on Netflix now, it's found a home there. It was on A&E originally. Great show. I love Longmire. Anyway, there are a lot of issues with this way of determining heritage. Why? As Elizabeth Rule, a professor of race, gender, and culture studies at American University, oh, well, now there's a lucrative major, told NPR in 2018, these were not genetic assessments, and officials would mark someone as full blood based on appearance or cultural involvement in the community. Okay, well, I'll concede that's probably kind of a shaky footing on which to just say, yes, you belong to an ethnic heritage. No. Mixed race Black natives were often excluded from official roles, and in recent decades, some tribes have aggressively disenrolled members. Okay, because of the quantum? Is that it? Okay. Keeler, speaking to the Post, defends her methodology, which she detailed in a 40-page article on Substack. Quote, Native identity has to be based in something, she said. I would agree. It carries with it a legal definition, for instance. Besides, Keeler added, quote, pretendians, unquote, often have vague claims to Native identity. Issues like blood quantum don't typically come into play in her work. But this act of public vetting is harmful for a number of reasons, said Angela Newsom, a citizen of the Northern Cheyenne Nation, who wrote about Keeler's work in Powwows, a publication focused on Native issues. Okay, so verifying someone's claim of Native ancestry is harmful. All right, tell me. What Keeler did is try to police Indian country, something no single person has a right to do, Newsom said. Well, aren't you de facto policing who can ask questions about Indian country? Aren't you policing those who have doubts about things? All right. That should be left to tribes or councils, said Newsom. Quote, they do have the capacity, if they so choose, to investigate these types of claims or to speak out publicly if they want, unquote. Well, then why didn't the Apache tribe denounce her publicly? Why didn't you denounce her publicly? If these suspicions, if these doubts, if this evidence has been around for decades, why didn't you denounce her publicly? Quote, we are not one big group of people in the United States. Well, why is it called Indian country then? Why does it keep being referred to as Indian country if you're not saying you're all one group? We have different sets of culture, values, traditions, Newsom said, so it just kind of felt like she was stepping on everyone's toes. What, you mean the lady that uncovered someone lying was stepping on everyone's toes? So you're happy to suffer a liar rather than have people be held to account for their claims? Okay, well, I mean, you're the expert. Such conversations can be particularly painful to people who have been looking to reclaim their native lineage. What if they don't have one? What if they don't have one and then lie about it? No one's supposed to question? What if they try to claim some kind of, benefit from it? Like college admissions or some kind of scholarship or, I don't know, like maybe they mark it down on their resume towards a legal or political career. And it's a lie. Maybe it's an honest lie, right? Maybe you thought something was true about your family, but it turns out not to be true. Well, should you still benefit from that misapprehension? Okay. Raised by a white single mom, Carly Butler is in the process of reconnecting to her Yaqui heritage. And if I'm mispronouncing Y-A-Q-U-I, is it Yaqui, Yaqui? I apologize. I do want to get these things pronounced right when I can. Learning the language, researching Yaqui history, and unpacking her family's past. She was told by her mother that her dad is a Mexican Yaqui. But while Butler said she has reached out to family members who have verbally confirmed her Yaqui lineage, she doesn't have the kind of formal documentation that, quote, people like Keeler, unquote, look for. You mean evidence? You mean proof? Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to reconnect with an ethnicity that you may or may not actually have a connection to, proof would be nice. Butler, who defended Littlefeather in a Twitter thread because Butler has a vested interest in not having too many questions asked in order to make themselves feel special, said she saw similarities between herself and the famed activist. Oh, you mean like reaching for a connection in an ethnicity that you may or may not actually have a connection to? Trying to build a mystery around yourself to be more special than the next person? I guess I could see that. Butler says she worries that if she ever fulfills her dream of becoming a published author, skeptics will say she doesn't belong or accuse her of trying to profit off her identity. It sure sounds like that's what you're trying to do, whether it's your identity or not. I mean, if you're going to become an author and use your native quote-unquote heritage as a linchpin to your authenticity or something, but it's not true, you're putting yourself in the same position as Littlefeather. So do you have proof of this claim or don't you? And if you don't, and you get called out for it, that's your own fault. Thank you, Cryptic. This should be the Elizabeth Warren ruling, should this ruling favor getting rid of this racist crap. Yeah. How dare anyone ask me to justify or verify my claims of heritage or lineage? I mean, obviously I'm the son of Sidney Poitier. How dare you question my claim of heritage to Sidney Poitier? He was my father. Obviously, 6 degrees of separation. How dare you question my lineage as the daughter of a wealthy German industrialist or something, and then I defraud a whole bunch of people on that basis for a couple of years? Anna Delvey, anybody? Yeah, okay, don't ask me to verify my claim to heritage. It's wrong. It's harmful. I got this whole con going, guys. Don't ask me to actually back it up. Quote, I just want to be honorable and respectful of my nation and tell the story of what happened to me personally, being displaced and not being able to reconnect in a way that I would like without being harassed or delegitimized, she said. Well, how about legitimizing before you complain about being delegitimized? See, that's the problem. You first have to be legitimate before you can complain about someone trying to undercut that legitimacy. And yet, you apparently cannot find actual proof of your claimed heritage. There is a notable gray area when it comes to claiming Indigenous identity, said Kimberly Tallbear, a professor of Native Studies at the University of Alberta and a member of the Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate. Oyate? I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. Blood quantum requirements can carve up bloodlines, leaving members of the same family on the outside of tribal citizenship, including her own. Well, sure, if I have, genetically speaking, 1/84th Native American blood in my system or something, I think it would be kind of false for me to claim I have a direct lineage to Native ancestry. Just kind of on its face. I mean, if that is the measurement, if I can't even draw a line between myself and Native ancestry genetically in a clean and concise way, it would be a stretch for me to claim any kind of benefit any kind of sympathy, any kind of connection to such a heritage, wouldn't it? Just a little bit. But hey, I guess that doesn't matter. But these cases are not the same as falsely claiming a native ancestor or identity, Tallbear said. Quote, there is just no good excuse for lying, unquote. There's a gray area, but there's no excuse for lying. Okay, well, I guess that depends now on how you assess a lie. The people making false claims tend to double down on harmful stereotypes. You mean showing up at the Academy Awards in moccasins and braided hair and a native poncho, etc., and making up a name for yourself that has absolutely no connection to anybody else in your family? I mean, you notice how nobody so far has said that Littlefeather was the name of some ancestor of hers. You know, well, we had a grandfather who was this, that, or the other, but unless there's a piece of this story that's just missing from this. The people making false claims tend to double down on harmful stereotypes, leaning into traumatic stories about poverty, alcoholism, and abuse, Tallbear said. Yeah, you mean like Sasheen Littlefeather, who said that she grew up in poverty and was a victim of abuse, and that her family members said no? That's not true? Okay. And she added, some have gone on to influence policy, as well as perceptions and portrayals of Indigenous people and communities, all while having no lived experience or legal relationship to those nations, which continue to fight for resources and sovereignty. Okay. Littlefeather herself didn't seem to financially profit, quote unquote. Hold on. Washington Post. Littlefeather didn't seem to financially, quote unquote, they're quoting, they're putting quotation marks around profit off her alleged lie. I don't know, notoriety, fame, sympathy, documentaries. Well, I guess it depends on how you define profit. Gilio Whitaker of UC San Marcos noted, but the scholar believes Littlefeather did benefit from it, at least in recognition and acclaim. Well, again, how do you define profit? And aren't you the person who decided not to ask too many questions? For the people most invested in Littlefeather's story, say Gilio Whitaker, by any chance, Native activists, scholars, and descendants, are you going to include Gilio Whitaker in that scholars category? Your own subject in this that you just keep kind of dodging, holding to account for having kept up the conspiracy this whole time? There is no single lesson or focal point. Yeah, there is. Don't lie. Most of us learn this when we're like 3 or 4, if we have parents that care. Don't tell lies. Take neither credit nor blame for things you have not done. There's no single lesson. Are you kidding me right now? While Keeler said her work exposing pretendians has come at a cost to her career, she still finds the project valuable because being Native, quote, is not a subjective experience, unquote. Others were dismayed at how the conversation has focused on defending individual identity rather than considering community responsibility, which is itself a hallmark of Indigenous cultures. Wait a second. Let me try that again. Others were dismayed at how the conversation has focused on defending individual identity. Well, either you're telling the truth that you're a member of this culture and this ethnicity, or you're not. If someone makes that claim and leverages themselves into being a public figure over it, you should probably check their bona fides. Rather than considering community responsibility, which is itself a hallmark of Indigenous cultures. Well, apparently the hallmark of Indigenous cultures is to not ask too many questions, according to our scholar and Native are certified Native in this article. Quote, when we assert indigenous definitions of kinship, we are talking about relatives, Tall Bear said. Well, if they're telling the truth, sure. This emphasis on community and one's obligations to it are especially important. Well, not according to Jillia Whittaker, who said that we don't ask too many questions, that making those kind of interrogations is just frowned upon, that it's better to have a role model than an honest person up front, apparently. This emphasis on community and one's obligations to it are especially important, she added, at a time when tribal sovereignty and land rights are being challenged. Yeah. Like, what is the legitimacy of someone claiming to have a connection to tribal or native history when you're trying to legitimize sovereignty? You should reject anybody who even steps near lying about their ancestry when you're fighting for sovereignty. Newsom of the Northern Cheyenne Nation said these quote-unquote sensational concerns about authentic Native identity are more important in academic circles and online discussion than they are in everyday life in Native communities. When she brings up such matters back home, people feel it's quote-unquote outrageous to even talk about. They're like, we're trying to get clean running water. We're trying to find how we're going to send our kids to college. You're trying to survive. So, what? Suffer a liar to live? If your fight is for legitimacy, sovereignty, recognition, why would you allow or even tolerate someone coming in from the outside claiming legitimacy of your struggle that they've never lived and have no connection to? That was the end of the article, but they did put a clarification at the end of the article. An earlier version of this story described people as being removed from the list Jacqueline Keeler keeps of Native Americans whose identity has come under question. They are not removed, but their status is updated. This story has been updated. Okay, well, that's good. Thank you again, Cryptic. Ebony Williams should replace the last lady who was installed as Supreme Court Justice. I think she can define what a woman is. Ebony Williams is all woman. I don't speak from direct experience, but hey, you know, I've known her a while. Who is the author? The author of the article? Whoever Anne Brannigan and Kelsey Abels is. I wonder if Kelsey is ableist. I tried. I didn't try very hard, but I tried. Mike R. Okay, this is a random stream. Yeah. This is I had a hectic day and I just needed something to take my mind off of the stress of the day. So there you go. The Washington Post and the subjects of the article therein effectively suborning fraud, ancestral Native fraud. It's harmful to ask questions about people who claim connection to... She may have lied about her identity. Does that matter? You know, anybody who has to ask, does it matter if someone just completely fabricated their existence and, you know, either they themselves or people around them used it as a cudgel or a shield for criticism? Yeah. I don't know. Does it matter, guys? I guess we'll find out. Anyway, that's topic number one, as promised in the title. But now, I mean, I guess tangentially connected, let's talk about affirmative action. Oral arguments took place this week at the Supreme Court over a case involving affirmative action. And it was a lawyer for, I believe it was Yale University. I could be mistaken. But either way, in short, you had one side supporting affirmative action and another side arguing against affirmative action. There is a lot in those oral arguments that lasted over 5 hours to cover, if I were to cover the whole thing, which would take forever. But this specific nugget was posted today, and I thought it was a good example of the justices asking very basic questions of the side for affirmative action, and just how hard a time they had trying to justify their position. Now, unfortunately, this isn't my favorite bit. My favorite bit had one of the justices, I think it might have been Roberts. It was either Roberts or Thomas, I think. Anyway, it was one of the male justices, and they were asking the lawyer in favor of affirmative action, how do you define diversity? Because one of the arguments from the side for the motion, let's say, was that affirmative action was necessary in order to achieve a diverse campus or a diverse school body. And so they were asking, well, how do you define diversity? And the guy gave some sort of general answer. And the justice asked, well, would you include religion in that? And the guy says, yeah, it's part of a holistic analysis of, the population. And I'm paraphrasing here, but only slightly. And so the justice asked, well, why do you have a checkbox for religion on applications for admissions? And the guy's like, no. And the justice is like, well, why not? I mean, if religion is part of your calculus for what equates to diversity on campus, if you don't have a checkbox, how do you know if you've achieved it? And to me, that was kind of the end-all, be-all of the argument right there. When they said they don't have a checkbox, they don't have an area on the application for what religion you are ahead of admissions, but they do have one for either ethnicity and or race. I, in my mind, that was the end of it. That simple question and that answer ended it, because religion, legally speaking, is on equal footing insofar as Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act as race for what you cannot discriminate by if you are an institution that receives federal funding. Race, religion, exactly the same thing insofar as the law is concerned, of that which you cannot discriminate or test by. And so if you don't have a racial test, if you don't have a religious test on the application, then there's no justification for having a racial test or a question about it. And I started thinking, yeah, because I seriously doubt that any lawyer would argue to eliminate the separation of church and state, right? That's why there's no checkbox for your religion. And so consequently, I have to ask, why isn't there a separation of race and state as well? Anyway, commensurate to that, in accordance with that notion, here's a clip, and it's only 7 minutes long. We're going to listen to, I believe it's Justice, which one is it? Oh my gosh. I think it's Alito. And Alito is going to be questioning the lawyer in favor of affirmative action about Asian students. So let's listen in, and I'll pause when it's appropriate. All right. And let me know if you can hear this. I boosted the audio a little bit, so I'll give it a couple of seconds. You guys tell me if you can hear it, okay? And hopefully I got everything set up correctly.
Mr. Waxman, let me stop you there, because you referred to the personal score.
Okay, you referred to the personal score. You guys hear that all right? Let me know. Who else is here right now? Let's see. Random American, hello. Anybody else I missed? Duck Dog, hello. Nobody, not me, hello. Cynic, hello. JMK, hello. 5x5 says JMK. Okay, so about the personal score.
And that's a score that Harvard gives based on character traits such as integrity, courage, kindness, and empathy. But the record shows that Asian student applicants get the lowest personal scores of any other group.
Okay, demographic, not group, but either way. So why do Asian students get a lower score collectively than any other demographic, if that's what the personal score is meant to represent. Liesel 7, hello. Lesser Logic, hello.
What accounts for that? It has to be one of two things. It has to be that they really do lack integrity, courage, kindness, and empathy to the same degree as students of other races, or there has to be something wrong with this personal score.
That is, I mean, I want to get to what the evidence was there, but that syllogism, with all due respect, is wrong.
Oh, it is? Tell us how.
There was, for example, a study that was done in 1983 that looked at why it was that female applicants to graduate school at the University of...
No, just address this. The personal score that's given to Asian applicants to Harvard.
Yeah, listen how the lawyer does everything in his power to not answer the question. It's remarkable. As we proceed, when the justice asks him a flat question, listen to the rhetoric, the mental gymnastics being done to avoid actually having to address that question.
Why are they given a lower score than any other group?
Okay, so the answer to why they, as a group, why there is a slight numerical disparity with respect to the personal rating of Asian Americans, and also a slight numerical disparity to the advantage of Asian Americans with respect to the extracurricular rating and the academic rating, was the answer that their expert gave with respect to the latter two, which is that the only way that the only model that can be created to figure out what was going into the personal rating couldn't look at almost anything that admissions officers look at in those ratings.
Define word salad, will you?
There's no way that it could model what the guidance counselor letters said, what the teacher letters said, what the essays said, what the interviewers' letters said. In other words,
I thought the interviewers did not rate the applicants lower than other applicants based on race. There was not the disparity in what was said by the interviewers.
So there was an earlier claim in regards to, because they want to have affirmative action, but they also want to say that race does not play a significant part in the assessment of applicants or admissions. That was something that came across over and over and over again during the course of the oral arguments, both from the lawyer in favor and from some of the justices who were trying to defend affirmative action. They kept saying, well, race doesn't play that big a part. Well, if it doesn't play that big a part, then why is it even there? And also, if it does play any part, whether it's large or minuscule, that's where racial discrimination is taking place. This is something that I've talked about in multiple videos in the past, whether it's dealing with racial discrimination or sex discrimination in the workplace or so on and so forth. If at any point in the hiring or promotion process, whether it's at the very front or the very end, you have a racial test, or you have a gender test, or you have a whatever test outside of merit, skills, or experience, that is the point at which you are committing discrimination that is more than likely illegal under federal law. So whether it's a little bit of racial discrimination or a lot of racial discrimination, it's still racial discrimination. It's like being a little pregnant. Right, so they made that argument several times that the interviewers don't assess people on the basis of race. Right, that doesn't come up. Well, then how do you keep seeing this pattern of Asian Americans being devalued as compared to every other demographic?
With respect to the alumni interviewers,
based
on the subset that was included here, their subset, by the way, excluded all ALDC applicants. That is, even though they acknowledged that there was not only no evidence of discrimination against Asian American ALDCs, but they did better. They eliminated from their model applicants that represent, on average, 30% of the admitted class.
I still, putting aside the teacher recommendations or guidance counselor recommendations, which I'll come to, I still haven't heard any explanation for the disparity between the personal scores that are given to Asians. They rank below whites, they rank way below Hispanics, and really way below African Americans. And you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of applicants, maybe thousands. What is the explanation for that?
See, keeps asking the same question, and good on him for keeping on him. You know, because I mean, so often when I listen to interviews and panel discussions and everything, it's not very adversarial, right? It's usually some very cozy interviewer talking to a purported colleague or something, and they ask a question and they get some nonsense answer and they just say, wow, that's great, you know, something like that. Like listening to, who am I thinking of all of a sudden? Chris Hoff, right? When I do the gnarly counseling or radical therapist stuff, Chris Hoff will be interviewing another therapist, another counselor. He'll ask this person a direct question about their methods or their theory or whatever, and they give some complete gobbledygook answer. And he just kind of nods and smiles. I'm so glad to listen to something like this where, yeah, you don't get any room for nonsense. If someone asks you a straight question, they expect a straight answer. And if they don't get it, they'll stick on it. So this is actually kind of a joy to listen to in a way. Regardless of which side of the aisle I was actually on, to actually have somebody hold someone to task to answer the question, it's so nice.
So the explanation that was, I can't do better than the findings of fact in the trial court as affirmed. But I want to make 2 points very clear with respect to your question. All of this was on display and in front of the trial court for this Asian American part of it for well more than a week, maybe 2 weeks. The district court found, considering all of the evidence, that there is, quote, no credible evidence that corroborates the improper discrimination suggested by SFFA's interpretation of the personal rating.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I have heard over and over again, and I've been shown over and over again, if there's a statistical disparity between demographics, that equates to evidence of malfeasance, evidence of racism, sexism, whatever. There's no evidence. Well, then why does this one racial demographic, on balance, always seem to fall below every other racial demographic? Why is that? There's no evidence of it. Well, I mean, certainly these statistics are correlation, not necessarily causation, but what explanation do you have for that otherwise when we're talking about affirmative action, which is specifically structured to favor some races over others in admissions? I mean, you got some splaining to do.
Well, all right, I'll try one more time. The district court found, quote, a statistically significant and negative relationship between Asian American identity and the personal rating assigned by Harvard admissions officers.
That's correct. And what she said is the record will not allow a full explanation of that because there was no evidence with respect to what teachers said, what guidance counselors said, what these students wrote about.
Well, here's the other thing. Here's the reverse of it. If he's saying that the statistical disparity is not evidence of inherent racism or discrimination, right, then he has no footing on which to stand in any complaint about the absence of affirmative action showing any disparities between the races elsewise. Right? I mean, if he's going to downplay this disparity, then he's got nothing to complain about any other disparities that might be shown or that he might complain are going to be the result of the absence of affirmative action. You can't have it both ways.
But what we can say with respect to the allegation of discrimination in this case, which was the definition of discrimination that was at issue in Bakke and Grutter and Fisher, and which their lawyer got up at opening statement and said, when we talk about discrimination in this case, we're talking about discrimination in admissions outcomes. And here again, The district court found, and the Court of Appeals also concluded, that there was no evidence of discrimination in admissions outcomes against Asian Americans, whatever you think about the personal rating, which is, after all, simply a number.
Justice Alito would like to ask a question.
You listen to that? The lawyer is talking over a Supreme Court justice, cutting him off. That takes some balls. I'll give you that. That takes some balls.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to filibuster you.
Yes, you are trying to filibuster him. You just cut him off. You just cut off a Supreme Court justice trying to refine his question and or address your answer. Yeah, you were filibustering. You're trying to cut him off and drown him out.
Finish your sentence. Then
Okay.
I will ask one more question.
I want to make one other thing clear to the extent that it's not clear from the record.
Okay.
The personal rating,
Yes.
like the academic rating and the extracurricular rating and the athletic rating, is a number that is put down by a, quote, first reader. That is, the file comes in, it's not usually complete, and just as a matter of triage, one of the 40 admissions officers goes through and gives these numerical numbers. The testimony was, it is not considered in any way once the subcommittees and committees meet. It, quote, fades into the background.
Now, here's the thing, and I'll keep harping on this. If the roles were reversed and the demographic that was constantly shown as being undercut compared to every other demographic was African Americans, what do you think this lawyer would say that is evidence of? Right? If you had a school that did not have an affirmative action program in place, and the demographic in the lower score was African American, do you think this lawyer or the people behind this lawyer would say that school, there's no evidence of any wrongdoing taking place? Just a thought experiment. Just a thought experiment.
It is not the basis of admissions decisions. And so not only did the court find as fact that that slight disparity was not evidence of discrimination, even in the personal rating, it had no effect with respect to outcomes.
It makes no difference whatsoever.
It's not that it makes no difference whatsoever.
Okay. Either this personal score thing that you've got constructed at your school matters or it doesn't. If it doesn't matter, then why are we talking about it? Why does it exist?
Look at what the expert testimony was, and I realize
Does it make a difference or doesn't it make a difference?
it doesn't make a statistical difference in admissions outcomes.
Then why do you do
both
it?
courts
Then why
found.
do you do it?
It
Doesn't matter. Why do you do it?
We do it as a matter of triage. Right now, Harvard is last year got 61,000 applications for 1,600 slots. And it is an entirely rational way of figuring out how you were going to allocate your attention.
Okay, so it does matter. You said it makes no statistical difference, but now it's a matter of triage, so it does matter. There's a limited number of slots, and there's more than those slots in applications. So if you're not using it as a deciding factor, then why are you using it as a deciding factor? Listen to this guy.
To ask an admissions officer as the file is being developed, just go through in a very rough way and rate a particular application based on what you can see on these 4 metrics. The fact that Asian Americans got on average, a marginally lower personal rating score is no more evidence of discrimination against them than the fact that they got a marginally higher rating than any data can show on academics and extracurriculars. It doesn't mean that they're either smarter or people think they're smarter.
Thank you, counsel.
I mean, that is some legal waltzing around the question. And again, it's just one of those, like with the last TEDx, if you just took the same language, exact same argument, but you flipped around a couple of adjectives. Asian Americans might be undercut, but there's no evidence of discrimination. Oh, okay. Yeah, the personal survey, the personal score, it doesn't really matter in admissions decisions. Then why do it? Well, it's there for triage. It's just, yeah, no, I mean, if I really had the stamina or the chutzpah, I'd get the entire audio for the whole day of oral arguments on affirmative action and go through it with a fine-tooth comb. But it would take me half a day. It's like 5 hours. But there were some real choice segments in there. And if you haven't listened to it, or if you're like bored at work and just need some background noise or something, I'd recommend just putting it on in the background. Things will jump out at you as it proceeds, as it did to me. I don't know how the Supreme Court's going to decide this one. I don't know whether their decision is going to be broad, narrow, or otherwise. But I'll tell you that as things went along, you could hear the prevaricating. You could hear on both sides, both in the lawyer for affirmative action and the justices who are obviously for affirmative action, making up stories, trying to justify something that stands in abject, which is abjectly antithetical to written constitutional federal law. Trying to make up stories that say that, oh, racial discrimination is okay in these instances, even though Title VI is pretty clear. And like I said, the real poison pill for the whole argument to me was when the guy asked about the religious checkbox. Why isn't there a religious checkbox? Why isn't that counted? If you include that in your calculus of a diversification of a campus, well, how do you track that if you don't ask and inquire about someone's religion? And we know why they don't ask about religion. But again, religion is on the same constitutional footing as race on this matter. So anyway, I could go on. Can you drop a link, please, Scribelight? Link to both the article I read and this clip are in the description under originals. That's where I put all the sources when I can find them for these things. So go check that out there. As for the full oral arguments from the Supreme Court yesterday, I think you can find them relatively easily with a YouTube or Google search. I know somebody posted like the full, I think the Washington Post or New York Times had the full thing on their YouTube channel. So you can check that out there. But anyway, everyone, that was just my I had a hectic day, decided to vent a little bit with some articles and news and things to just clear my mind, cleanse my palate, and maybe be interesting for you guys. But that's about it. However, if you'd like to hear more from me, you can find me here Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for another episode of TED Excellence, where I'll take a look at another off-brand TED Talk for illumination and analysis. I call it analysis, illuminalysis, illuminalysis. I don't know. Anyway, everyone, thank you for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. I hope you all have a good rest of your Tuesday, a good rest of your week ahead of you. Hopefully not nearly as hectic as mine has been so far. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.